You're listening to the Clutter Fairy Weekly, a weekly webcast and podcast brought to you by the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas. If you'd like to participate in one of our live webcasts, please visit cfhou.com/weekly. You'll find a calendar of upcoming webcasts, as well as instructions for joining the Zoom meeting via the app or by phone. We'd love to see you. That URL again is cfhou.com/weekly. Now here's the weekly episode. Enjoy.
Awesome. Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. This is the Clutter Fairy Weekly for April 14th, 2026. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, certified professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. We're back again. Clutter Fairy Weekly is the webcast and podcast that digs deep into the clutter that piles up between you and the life you want to be living. We explore the habits and behaviors that lead to clutter, and we suggest strategies to slow the accumulation, reduce the collection, and comfortably manage the stuff we decide to keep.
If you're new to our Zoom meeting, we want to let you know that you can share your comments and questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle addresses them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature if you want to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. And we are streaming the webcast live on Facebook, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. We're going to start by talking about the weekly tittle from 2 weeks ago, which was called Shameless Space. The assignment was to chip away at the contents of one of your personal spaces of shame if you are afflicted with those. Let's hear from our participants in Zoom and on Facebook. Who worked on the junk room or junk drawer or another clutter hiding place of last resort this week? Please let us know in the comments. YouTube viewer E. Malloy 7530 shared a tittle report in a comment on our latest video. E writes, "Hi, Ed and Gayle." Did you notice I got top billing there, Gayle?
I saw that. We got included as a team.
Hi, Ed and Gayle. I've been working slowly on the forgotten corners of my home over the past 2 months. There are a few corners that have had clutter lurking in them. One dumping ground has been the craft room, where many of my projects have gone to languish, sadly forgotten. I've been working hard to make decisions about if they get to stay and get completed, or if it is now time to send them on their way towards someone else as their components and set myself free from the mental to-do of them as UFOs, unfinished objects. It's been a relief to cross them off my list, either as finally complete or no longer interested in as a hobby. Making those decisions has made my craft time more enjoyable and less chaotic.
Gotta love that response.
Right?
Right? You know, I'm a crafty chick, and I want all crafty inclined people to be having fun doing their creative things. So I'm thrilled to hear that you're enjoying craft time again. Regularly evaluating your UFOs to see if you still want to complete them or maybe declare yourself done and pass them on should be a regular part of your craft room maintenance. It means you revisit projects that you put down for whatever reason and either pick them back up to continue or finish them, or you release them unfinished. Holding them as UFOs for 10 years before releasing them is a lot of creative stagnation. So going through your UFOs once a month or once a quarter or even once a year will help keep your creative space from backing up to the point where it feels like mental pressure instead of creative fun. It's a maintenance task that many creative people skip to the detriment of their craft studio's functionality and its ability to be inviting to you and to inspire you. I think of it as supporting my creative streak. And so I would encourage you to not consider this a one and done thing, but shift what you've already done and make it a maintenance routine that you add into your, studio management, because it will help move product along. And, you'll move the project and you'll move the product that goes with the project along, probably some of it as well. And so it's a corner of decluttering your craft room that you can do regularly and continue to fluff your space and make it feel inviting and creatively inspiring.
My favorite part of E's comment was the last line. Making those decisions has made my craft room more enjoyable and less chaotic. It feels like there's kind of a mantra in there.
Right?
Making uncomfortable decluttering decisions makes my life more enjoyable and less
Less
chaotic.
chaotic, 100%.
You know?
That is so true. Absolutely. And that's the, that's the baked in reward. Like it's painful in the doing, but the reward is more enjoyable, less chaotic. Gotta love that.
Okay, let's go to our audience for some tittle reports. Jacqueline says, I got rid of another 7 jigsaw puzzles, which brings my total declutter to 48.
Wow. That's a lot. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Jacqueline's putting a lot of us to shame with this report. She goes on to say, from the garage, we got rid of 4 life jackets, 5 5-gallon tubs of driveway sealer. That was a project that never happened.
Yeah.
A lawnmower, a branch shredder, 8 wood window shutters, an automotive creeper. I don't even know what that is, and a grass fertilizer slash seed spreader. And just before Easter, a bag of plastic eggs. We have
There
also
you
been
go.
working in the garden, spreading topsoil and soil and mulch. We've made a lot of progress in the last 2 weeks on maintenance and decluttering projects.
That's
So good.
awesome. And it sounds like you've made a lot of breathing room in the garage too, based on that list of tools and equipment that went out the door. You were digging around in the garage, pulling things out. So good for you. That's awesome.
Paula in New Mexico says, I went through recipes for the first time in a couple of years and tossed
Ah.
over 25%. If I haven't made something in the last 5 years, I'm just not going to make it.
And in the 5 years since you've made it, you found a million other really fabulous recipes, right? Like
Right.
it's not like you're not continuing to add. And so if you're still finding interesting recipes and you're still trying new things, and so if something went on the thing and you made it and it never comes back again, it doesn't matter because you got a million other things to play with. So I think that's great. You're doing great.
Well, and I'm reminded that we recently did some pantry purging. I don't know did I talk
Mm,
about this in an episode?
mm-mm, mm-mm.
Went started going through the pantry and found all of these wonderful things that sounded like such a great idea. And what I had to keep reminding myself was, yeah, you know what? Every time you pull this out, it seems like a great idea, but none of the times that you've pulled it out did you ever actually
Pull the trigger.
use it. Yeah. And so
Yes.
I let some things go that I just had to admit this sounded like fun and it's never going to be the right time. It's not what I want to do.
And this is the, I talk about this in the craft room as well. Like when you have so many, like I do, like I have a lifetime of bead supplies, right? Like you see my bean room, you know how big it is. There's so much stuff in there, and not all of it is going to make it's not all going to be so exciting to me that it comes to the top of the list. And while you can appreciate the supplies you had in the pantry of as interesting and a good idea, if you pick it up and look at it and go, that's a cool idea, and you put it back and pick something else instead,
Yeah,
then you're saying it's interesting, but it's never going to come to the top of your list
right.
because other things are more exciting to you. And so you're just accepting this is for you, cooking is fun and creative, and it was in the bottom 50% of
Well,
your interest level, right?
right.
And so, like, when you have the top half of the interest level is so big and 50% of stuff you're super jazzed about, when are you going to ever get to something that is mildly interesting?
Yeah.
Right. And so you
Yep.
release that, and good for you.
Well, and some of those things, it was the a case of, I bought an interesting ingredient, but there were going to be, 2 fresh items and another exotic, an exotic sauce or spice that I have to track down. And so, lesson there is be sensible when you're shopping. When something just sounds kind of cool, you have to really evaluate it in terms of, yes, but will I? And
Well, and also, like what you just said about I use this, I also need to use these 5 other things to make the recipe happen that
right,
I also don't have. And so maybe you find something interesting and you put it on the list of things to research before you buy.
right. So you can go
Like
to
you
the
could go
store
look
with,
at the
go
thing and
get the
say,
entire shopping list.
yeah, or
Yeah,
or to decide, oh, in order to try this thing that I thought looked interesting in the store, I'm also going to have to find these 17 other ingredients,
yeah,
and therefore the investment isn't $20, but it's going to be $150.
right.
And do I really want all that stuff that bad? Like, right? pausing to research a little bit more, get more information before you pull the trigger on your interests, I think is a good point to make.
Yeah, on hobby food. May says, I finally put all my toys away. Childhood miniature toys that were on display but ending up just being dust collectors.
Mm. Spend time to evolve past the child toys. Okay,
And
I'm good with that.
Connie says weather cooperated and all the plants that were in X room, that's her
Junk room.
personal space of shame. It's
Mm,
former a daughter's former bedroom that
mm.
became the X room. Uh, all the plants that were in X room during the winter are out. I also got rid of a few boxes from purchased electronics.
Yay, very good. That's the kind of, you got to churn. The plants have to come in, but then they have to go back out again later. So, good job for you following up on that.
Ginger reports I worked on my pantry,
Oh,
removed 24 empty jars, 14 journals, and swept up dirt from a hidden away from Kitty's amaryllis plant. More to do, but I've started. And
that's the
she
best
goes
thing to do.
on to say, yes, journals, planners, actually. There was space. It was near my kitchen table where I worked on my 2026 plan. So that's how they ended
Mm,
up in the kitchen.
okay. All right. I see what you did there. Like you made it accessible for where you would use it, which makes sense. But if you kept more than you needed there, or you had more than you actually used, then filtering them out and sending some of them along the way is a good thing to do. Good job.
M reports I photographed the smallest dumping ground, but got no further. However, I am doing a major overhaul of external computer storage. Unfortunately, that isn't making my home less cluttered. But but if it's making your computer less cluttered and if it's making your head less cluttered and it's making, maybe some of the things you need to manage on the computer less cluttered, it's all headed in the right direction.
And if this is structured procrastination, like
Right?
if you're working on this computer project as partially as an avoidance technique, like okay, eventually you'll finish that project and you won't be able to use it to avoid anymore, and the house will still be there waiting for you. So it's okay, no judgment about that. Like if this is what you have to do first, there will be some point where either you finish the computer project or the house becomes more annoying than the avoidance lets you do. You see, I'm trying to say at some point it'll be louder than your ability to focus on the computer project that keeps you from doing it. And so when that time comes, you can stop the computer project and go back to doing some housework, some house project decluttering. It's okay.
Brenda says, still in my packing party mode, only taking out what I'm using. Need to rearrange furniture in living room on grid before setting in place. Don't want to move more than once. So,
Yeah, yeah, especially because you don't want to get hurt moving stuff. So,
right. Lee says, collected old tax stuff to shred.
mm,
Hub wants to scan for just in case. Oh, yay.
hubs, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I would say that he might be able to minimize the stuff that he scans, and hit the highlights, hit the big evidence of income, hit the big deductions, and ignore the smaller ones. That kind of stuff. So I don't know if it. I don't know where you end up there, but I think he'll want to scan it. Like if you can get him to sit down and try to do it, and he sees how long it's going to take, his interest may wane on that. Like right now,
Yes.
scanning seems like the prudent thing to do, but you can also give him a deadline and say, okay, you have to either scan it by here or like find a shredding date, a shredding event that has a specific date show up. And these happen a lot at tax time actually, so there's probably a lot of free shredding actually happening around. You just have to Google in your area and see who's doing what.
Yeah.
But they do it a lot at tax time. So you can find an event that's 3 weeks from now, a month from now, and say, okay, you can scan it, and then at this shred date, I'm taking the paper. So either it's scanned or it's not scanned. It's going out on May 12th or April
Yeah.
15th or whatever you want
You
to
can
do about
you
that.
can scan them before I shred them on this date, or you can scan them after I shred them on this date, and the choice is up to you.
Right?
Okay, one more quick comment, which is from JB, who described the pantry phenomenon I was talking about as
Mm.
FPS, fondue pot syndrome.
Oh,
You know, you dig
interesting.
it out, it sounds like such a fun and delightful idea, and then you start thinking about the practicalities
Of
and
filling the fondue pot.
you put it away again and think maybe you'll make fondue another
Well,
time.
yeah, and the truth is, the fondue pots were popular when my parents were young adults and we were kids, and like that's what you did at parties. You did it for a party. You
Yeah.
didn't do it for your own dinner. It was an entertainment thing. It was 60s adults being Martha Stewart before Martha Stewart was a thing, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, no.
All right, we better move on to our main topic.
Okay, okay.
An audience member asked, is there a which came first, the chicken or the egg way of thinking about decluttering? We started pondering the conundrums we face as we work to organize, such as whether more storage ever really solves the problem of too much stuff. That's just one example. Today, we're going to examine chicken and egg dichotomies that challenge people with clutter and offer strategies for escaping these mental traps.
So
Um,
this
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
This topic is so fascinating to me because I think that lots of people feel like which thing happened first, and 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 therefore, because what they're really looking for is what's the way to unwind it. They're really
Right.
looking for guidance about how to unwind the mess. And so they're trying to figure out, okay, how did it grow? Which came first? Which thing do I need to stop first to make it get better? And so I'm looking forward to talking about this and hearing people's comments about it.
Well,
Uh,
and um, we have talked at great length about some of the more obvious ones, like do you declutter first or organize first?
mm, mm, mm.
So we're not going to really relitigate that question today. We wanted to get more into the problems that are challenging our audience, where they feel stuck.
Right? And
And so,
Ed mounted a survey.
yes, so we put together a survey, and the first question we asked our viewers and listeners was to describe a paradox, conundrum, or mental trap in which you find yourself as you work to declutter and organize your space. And we're going to talk about some of our favorite of your answers. Ellen says something else, a different space, another clutter pile over there, or a recurring task like laundry or cooking dinner or washing the dishes always seems more urgent than tackling the clutter here. My mental trap is not considering the clutter urgent or important until it has become really overwhelming.
And I would add that the mental trap is thinking of decluttering as a one and done chore that can wait until next year or until next decade goes by, instead of thinking of it as a regular home maintenance that is no different than cleaning the toilets or vacuuming the carpets. You will keep using the toilets and they will have to be cleaned over and over again. You're going to keep using things in your house to live your life, and you'll need to put them back in place over and over again. You're going to keep bringing in mail or new purchases, and you'll have to incorporate them into your existing storage and use systems in the house. If you put it off as a chore that can be ignored until some far off trigger point, when it's reached a critical mass that you find overwhelming and alarming, it means the project has become so much bigger and harder to face. And I think this is where we stall it in the short term and we suffer the consequences in the long term because the project has gotten so much bigger and so much more. It's going to take so much work to unwind it. Then it feels super overwhelming and impossible. Instead of recognizing that decluttering is really something that needs to be done, just like you got to vacuum the rug. Right? And so, whether you do that once a week, once a day, or once a month, it's still a recurring task. And if you ignore that clutter in the corner for a decade, it's just going to get bigger and worse until when you finally are so alarmed that you have to do something about it, or you have to move out, or somebody dies, or fill in the blank. then it becomes this huge, painful, awful amount of suffering that could have been avoided by more regularly addressing this stuff in the short term instead of waiting for it to blow up in the long term.
All
And
right.
it happens.
Yvonne says, my conundrum is the thought, what if I need it someday? We heard this from a few people.
Mm.
Yvonne says, I try to remind myself that for most things, I won't need them again. But if I do, the thought of having to rebuy something at today's prices makes me cringe.
You might have to rebuy something, but you won't have to rebuy everything. If you declutter your home, organize what you keep, and gain peace of mind, reduce your stress, make better use of your home and your space, isn't that worth the price of whatever you have to rebuy someday? If you spend $25, $60, $100 1 year after you finish your project, doesn't that seem like a fair cost for a year of peacefully living in your home? You might have to rebuy something later, but that's not inevitable. You may not have to rebuy, or what you rebuy might be pretty cheap. Your expense exposure here is not high. And so declutter and reclaim your space. And then start a small savings piggy bank just in case you have to rebuy something someday. You know that you're not going to have to rebuy everything that you release. And so if you have to rebuy one or two things because you made a choice in the moment and then, oh, I actually did need that later, it's not going to break the bank. And it's going to be such a small sliver of a percentage of the stuff that you release that it's not going to be something that is crippling. Because I think in everyone's mind, they imagine that they're going to have to, what if I have to respend all of this money? And the
Right,
answer is, you're
right,
not going to have to respend all that money. That is not going to happen. You may have to buy one thing that originally cost you $5 and now cost you $25. And yeah, that would, it would have been great if you still had the $5 thing, but there's no way to know of the 2,000 things you release, which one you're going to have a year from now. And so if you have to spend $25 in order to release those 1,000 things, I think that's a fair trade. And it's not a waste of your money. And it's not, because what you get for releasing the 1,000 things is the ability to know what you have more clearly. You can absolutely find what you have and know what you don't have. It means that you won't buy things that you already have 5 copies of in the house because you know that you only had one and it was over here and now it's gone. Like it means that your purchasing is so much more well informed as you go about your daily living. And so if you have to rebuy one thing, two things, within the next year after you declutter 1,000 things, it's so going to be worth it because you will, just in terms of what you already have and using what you already have, it will be so much more cost effective to buy that $5 item for $25 next year while you use the actual stuff that you have in your house and not have to rebuy multiples or duplicates of everything because you can't find something. Yeah, you will save so much more money in the long run. I'm just telling you.
and CJ says compare it to the price of offsite storage for those items.
100%. Oh my
Yeah,
God, if it's in a storage unit, forget about it. You're already spending right now in today's prices, I would
we
say
were.
on average $150 a month.
I was going to say we're paying $100 a month for about a 10 by 12, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
and that's, you're in a cheaper market, man. Like in tighter markets or more dense, more population dense areas that are really like
mhm.
a lot of competition for space and for storage. The prices are way higher, and so if you're spending $200 or $300 a month to house a bunch of stuff that you're not using, you could be using that $200 a month to replace the things you decluttered instead. I mean, if you empty the storage unit of everything and then you had to replace $200 worth of stuff every month, you would be breaking even. You'd be spending the same amount of money. And the likelihood is that you will have to replace $200 worth of stuff that you've decluttered every month. Not going to happen. I can
Right.
promise you that 100%.
Yeah.
You might have to spend $200 a quarter or a year replacing things you got rid of. And so, I think that the math on the cost always works out in the favor of decluttering.
Yeah.
100%.
Uh, Danetta offered two
Mm.
conundrums. One, I'll move these books into that closet as soon as I get the photo album stuff out of there. But first, I need to get the folding table out of the garage, which I'll set up as soon as I finish the ironing and fold away the ironing board. Then I can spread out the photo album stuff on the table to work on it. That was one.
Mm.
Number two, I'll spread this project out on the large dining room table so I can put like with like and decide what to discard. But Easter is in 10 days and everyone is coming here for lunch. So then I'll have to put the huge half-finished project away again.
So I have this discussion with clients several times a year, and here's what I think is going on. If the plan to declutter is convoluted enough, you won't actually have to start the work. So the plan that you've described there backs you up from each thing that you want to get done to the thing that's in front of it, to the things that's in front of that, and then it lands on a reason to not get started. In this case, the Easter family dinner. So you start a plan that winds around from taking action to not taking action. If each step of the plan prevents you from making any steps at all, then it's just not a good plan. It's not a plan that can get you where you want to go. So when I talk to clients who tell me a stair-step chain of roadblocks that ultimately stop the work, I start asking, what can we do instead? Can we change the order of the tasks or come up with another way to do it? Can we skip a step and do that step later while we work on the other parts instead? If I was going to change your example plan to get you in motion, I'd pull out the photo album stuff without getting the folding table out, take out what you need to remove, put it on the floor for now in that room, and put the books away. Then the book part being put away is complete, and the album stuff is one step farther towards what you're going to do with the album stuff. Then you can wait until the family dinner's over and before you try to deal with all the photos. I'm guessing you want to put the photos out on the table and sort them like with like. And so in the meantime, you can tackle the ironing as a separate task. So then if you don't wait for the folding table, for the ironing, for the blah blah, if you just pull the album stuff out and put the books up, then the books can be put up and that part of the task list is done. And then the ironing board and the ironing you have to do can be completed and put away without having to wait on something else. And so it unhooked the chain a little bit and lets you get some of it done, even if you can't face all of it. Because right now, the block is everything related to pulling the photo albums out. And so there you go. I think I do have this conversation a lot, and occasionally when I propose alternatives, instead of following the chain this way, we can follow the chain this way, or we can skip those two steps and try this. What happens is I continue to get resistance no matter what I offer. And after a half an hour of that, then I surrender. Because I think what really is happening is the client is telling me, I don't actually want to get any of these things done right now. I can't face them for whatever the reason is.
These pieces.
Yeah. And so they're just creating roadblocks that make it guilt-free for them to not do anything instead of just say to me, I can't face this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We can go do something else. That's not a problem at all. But if you find yourself with a chain of tasks that are dependent on each other and it stops all like 8 different things from getting done, then I would stop and say, okay, here's the 8 things I'm trying to get done and they're all predicated on each other. What of these things can I pull out of the chain and figure a different way to do? Let's just say, okay, that for this task, let's say the chain fails because I can't get it done because of these 6 other things I have to do first. So how could I address this task in some way that will accomplish it and not have to wait on all the other things happening? And I will tell you that if you give me a list, I can figure out a way. Like you just tell me the task you want to get done and I will spitball with you until we find the workaround. Because the truth is there's always a workaround. You may not like it. It may not be your preferred method, but your preferred method has you stuck in a chain that can't be completed.
Trapped, right.
Yes, you're completely trapped. So let's pull something out of the chain and try to get it done another way. that maybe you don't like as much, or you think is not as productive or as task effective or, elegant, but it's not getting you done. Nothing's getting done. It's not,
Right.
it's also not productive because nothing's getting done. So let's pull a task out and see what we can do to work around it. And you'll be surprised when you snatch something out of a chain like that and you figure a workaround and get it done, then you'll be like, oh my God, it really was not predicated on that big long chain of linked things. And maybe I can do that with something else.
Yeah.
And so it will give you the freedom to come at it a different way and try to break out of the chain.
CJ says, this is my issue all the time. The endless catch-22 prerequisite list to getting started. Love your answer, Gayle. There's always something else that can be done now.
Yes, 100%. Because you guys are smart and creative people. You are not unable to problem solve. And so let's think of it as a challenge. Like, how can I solve this problem? I want to do it. This is a big, long link of things to do. But clearly, that chain is frozen for whatever reason. It's not working because I can't fire up the engine to make the chain start to run. And
Right.
so then I need that chain isn't going to work for me. Like it's a good chain in theory of tasks, but it's not happening. So I must need to do something else and get creative about it because you can find something else. You can find another way. 100%. I
I
would
want to
challenge you to do that every time you feel like the chain is hamstringing you. Then go, yeah, I'm smarter than this. I can work this out another way.
I want to share a comment from Terry. This is on the previous question about the previous response about
Mm,
what if I need it someday and replacement cost. Terry says, agree with all that Gayle just said. Very few items will be replaced. Also, if I didn't declutter, I wouldn't even know I had the item. So I would have
percent.
coped in some other way or would have bought another one. I
You would have
rebought
spent the money anyway.
I rebought many things because they were lost in the clutter. So if
Yes.
decluttering ends in me replacing a few items, it didn't set me back at all.
And you will replace far less after you declutter than you replace because you can't find something in the house.
Yeah. And I think
100%.
I love that. So I would have coped in some other way or would have bought another one. And so I think, when you are decluttering and you unearth the thing and you go, oh yeah, I have one of these. I should A, B,
Use
C,
it.
D. I should do, I should use it. I should love it. I should put it somewhere where everyone can see it. Think about, okay, what's different about this item today compared to yesterday when you were blissfully ignorant that you had it?
When you did not know that it was there.
Yeah. I
Right?
think it's important. Like you're feeling that flush of excitement that you
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 found it.
felt when you first bought it and brought it home and then hid it from yourself for
Mm, mm,
years,
mm,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but the idea that you will have worked or you will figure out a workaround. You will have figured it out some other way because specifically because you couldn't find what you had or you didn't remember that you had it. And so it's a very aware comment to make. It's like, yeah, I didn't know it was there, so I did something else. Yeah, as you
Um,
do.
Linda, on the topic of the chain, says, for me, the most effective way to break the chain is to make some stuff leave forever as the first step. Then there is
Mm.
more room to do some of the other tasks.
Yeah, and I do know that people say, once it's gotten to a certain density, it feels impossible to move around or to do anything related to decluttering because, like, you need space to declutter, you need space to sort, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you do. And so when your density has reached such a level that you feel like you don't have even the room to sort, then we've talked about this before, you have to go into subtraction mode. You have to just go around the house with the bag, the donation bag, and start pulling out things that you're ready to release without doing any other work. Just I spy a thing I want to let go of and picking and putting in the bag, so that ultimately you will remove enough things that you will then have created some space that will allow you to move. And that's the first step for recovering from a 3D dense space that you can't move around in or maneuver in at all. It is 100% about extraction, subtraction of excess.
Okay, let's
Absolutely.
go on.
Mm.
Anita says, when I'm stressed or in a rush, my I'll do it later, in quotes, mode takes over. I returned from the hospital visiting my brother last night, and it looked like the place, at least my bedroom and the living dining area, had been ransacked.
So, Anita, if someone in your family is in the hospital, then I'm not surprised that your attention is diverted and things are not in good shape right now. So, give yourself some grace around that. Your family needs your attention right now. You can declutter and reset your place when you're past the immediate health crisis. And you can do some small things to move the needle, like loading the dishes in the dishwasher or picking up the dirty clothes and putting them in the hamper. If you don't have the bandwidth for a full cleanup right now, do a few things that help out and come back after a night's sleep to try another small bite tomorrow. I think decluttering, having the space for it, decluttering goes to the bottom of the list every time when there's a major crisis or event. And so somebody's in the hospital, somebody got hurt, somebody is sick, and you have to go deal with that. There's a funeral and you have to go deal with that. There's always things that happen in life that pause your regular functioning life. And giving yourself grace about that and knowing that you can come back to it later is a perfectly reasonable response to those kinds of events. Now, you don't want that response to be how you answer yourself for the next 15 years straight.
Right.
but right, but it is something that there are moments in life. There's a project at work and you're working 11-hour days and coming home and eating and going to bed and going back to work again. Like, there's a certain amount of stress level that supersedes being able to declutter, and those will occur in life, and those will be part of the diversion of your mental and physical resources, and you got to allow space for that. And then ultimately you have to return to getting yourself back in order. And in the meantime, doing little small things to be at least pushing it along a little bit while your resources are low. Yeah, I mean, I think that's an okay thing to do. And you just have to get to later. Like, you can't just say I'll do it later for a decade. You have to say I'll do it later and come back to it sooner than that. That's what I'm saying about that.
Okay. Sylvie says, I am stuck in a clutter conundrum where my lower level work from home office and now my upper level work from home office became a storage place for things left behind from deceased family members
Mm.
and remnants of traumatic events. I now have to get it cleared out in the next 30 days. This is causing panic and freeze response.
I'm sorry that you had to transfer a lot of stuff from estates into your space for later. If 30 days is your deadline, then I would start with anything large that can be donated, given away, or sold, like furniture, artwork, decor. If you brought things home that you wanted to incorporate into your house, pull those things out and set them up in your house. Go hang the art, put the dishes in the kitchen, put clothes in the closet. My point is, if it came from family and you want to keep it, you need to integrate it into your space. If you can't integrate it, there's no more room to put artwork up. That piece of artwork is too big for all the walls in your house. You don't have any more room for dishes in your kitchen, whatever. If there's not
Or
actually room,
yet another chest of drawers.
yeah. If you can't cram another piece of furniture in there, then I think the idea that it came from family and you needed to keep it was typical of how people respond after somebody passes away. But now you can come back to it and go, yeah, okay, I wanted to keep that, but that really doesn't work with my house. It's not going to work with my house. And so I can't actually incorporate this into my space. And that means it's time to release it through donation to the next family who's going to use it. Next, you want to spend some time with paperwork and see what's easily tossed. And then I would box the remaining stuff up for processing after the 30 days is up. I say that because you have a 30-day deadline, not because it needs to be done. I think if you have a 30-day deadline, you could spend, depending on how much paperwork you have in there from the estate, you could go down that paper rabbit hole and be there for the whole 30 days. And so I don't want you to get trapped in the paperwork and not be able to get the other stuff, which is more 3D and has bigger footprint. If you handle it, either incorporate it into your house or donate it away, it makes more space clearer faster. So I would look at the paperwork and see if there's large things that can be tossed away quickly and or shredded or whatever quickly, and then just concentrate the paperwork in some boxes and put the boxes somewhere, because you'll probably need more time that you can face in the 30 days. I would say that you should remember that the boxes were really packed in a hurry, and so the volume probably looks bigger than it actually is. Don't be intimidated by haphazard packing. There's usually a lot of airspace in those boxes that get packed in a hurry. So it may look like it's really, really full, and it may not actually be as big of a project as you think. And I'll also say processing things that you associate with grief is hard, but it is doable. Make sure that you're rested, like you've had a good night's sleep, you've eaten something, and that you're working in the most productive part of your day. If you're a morning person, work in the morning. If you're an afternoon person, if you're an evening person, work in that part of the day, because it's when your brain is most easily able to focus. Bring in a friend to sit with you and listen to the stories that you want to tell as you handle these items. Sometimes what happens is you pick up something and you start to reminisce, and it reminds you of a story. And so if you can tell that story out loud to somebody who's listening, that allows you to tell the story and finally remember it, and then make a better choice about the object itself, because you have the story in your head. And so it allows you to tell it and honor it for 5 minutes, and then you can release the thing maybe at that point. You want to make sure that the person that's there with you is somebody who's gentle and supportive. They need to be not pushy and challenging in that moment, because you're not going to have the space for that. It's going to be hard enough for you without somebody poking at you. So you need somebody to be kind. You can take a break occasionally, but don't let the grief stop you altogether. So aim for 30 minutes, take a small break, and come back to it. Rinse and repeat as you make it through the stuff. It is going to be a challenge that you have to face, but I think it's not impossible. And most people just think that the stuff that they have to deal with is going to be so overwhelming that they're just going to be miserable the whole time. And the truth is, there will be things that make you cry, and there'll be things that make you sad. And the process of releasing things related to this person that you loved will be hard, but it can be done. And if you have 30 days, you can do it a bit at a time every day until you get to where you want to be. And so good luck. Come back and tell us how it goes. And it's a good time to reach out for support to help you do something like this, or at least to sit with you while you make the decisions, so that you don't feel so alone in facing the room.
Okay. Um, Tiffany says, gifts from others stop my decluttering in its tracks. I have guilt associated with decluttering gifted items.
Mm. So ask yourself this question. Would my friend want me to be living like this? Would they rather that I keep the item and make the house too crowded to be comfortable? And has that friend that you're imagining that you received the gift from kept every gift that I ever gave to them? Does keeping the gift really enhance my life or bury my life? I think it's important to note there may be people who give you things that are like they pay super attention to it and they judge you harshly about it. Maybe it's a family member, but not every gift you get is from somebody that's sitting around wondering whether you're still using their gift or not. And so, does that friend want me to live like this? Would they rather that I keep the item in the house be miserable? Have they kept everything that I've given them? Does keeping the gift enhance my life or bury my life? And I think those are important questions to ask. And if based on the answers, you can release some stuff.
JB says, I consider those moments of uncovering treasures you didn't know or had forgotten you had as great motivation for decluttering. They are like little rewards.
Right? Like you find stuff. For me as an organizer, My reward is when I find money for people. So when I'm working in somebody's house, new, and we found $1 here, and we found $120 check there that she didn't realize she hadn't deposited yet, and we found a $25 gift card. And it's like, oh, okay, now I'm at $165. Like, I'm like, you're paying for the appointment by finding this stuff. So I think it is a thing to say, like, ooh, you got paid today because you found this thing that you need or you wanted, right? Good point.
Okay, Evelyn says, I declutter a lot and it has influenced how I think about shopping, but I
Mm.
still seem to have more come in than come out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, which one is this?
Evelyn.
Oh, Evelyn. Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. Thank you. So, congratulations that you're decluttering and that it's influencing how you think about shopping, because I think that's an important evolution that people have to go through, that they don't just see shopping as a entertainment mechanism,
Yeah, and
that
as
they
ended and without limits.
yes, 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 right. They start to see the effects on their finances. They start to see the effects on their home. They start to evaluate stuff through some more critical lenses when they're in the store than they used to. So I think you're talking about that evolution is happening for you, and that is super great. And I just want you to keep trying to flatten out the exchange. If you know you're bringing in a lot of new clothes, then you can go into your closet and release an equal amount of old clothes. If you're going to bring in some new dishes, then go into the kitchen with the intention of releasing some dishes for which these are replacements. And so try to aim for replacement, right? That I'm adding, therefore I now need to, in terms of understanding decluttering and shopping, if I'm going to buy something to bring into the house, that means I have to release something out of the house to make room for it, for my house to stay at the same level of density and the same level of functionality. Add that into your process, and it will help you feel better about it, I think.
Okay, I want to do one more from this list, and that's going to be Lynn.
Okay, okay.
Lynn says, many times I overestimate how much effort I can
Mm.
physically invest into a decluttering project and end up having to leave it unfinished until my body recovers enough to complete it. At other times, the misguided perception of the enormity of a decluttering project allows me to procrastinate until forced to do something about it, only to realize it wouldn't be that awful of a project had I just gotten started with it a lot earlier.
That little voice that says, my body needs a break, is one that you should listen to so you don't overdo it and possibly get hurt. Each time you overshoot, take notes about how much time before you felt drained, at what point had you gone across the line too far. Then schedule your next appointment to declutter for just that amount of time, the amount of time that worked before you got too overwhelmed, too physically tired. Keep adjusting the allotted work time until it's set for the time that you can spend on it comfortably. Then work on a smaller portion of the room. If you get started but can't finish physically, make a smaller step forward today. Clear a surface instead of planning to clear the whole room. Clear the desktop today and stop before you're worn out. That way you can keep working on stuff while respecting your limitations. You can also keep working longer over time because you don't have to stop for several days to recuperate when you've overdone it. This is no different than I start out exercising and I run for an hour and then I'm dead for 5 days because I did that, right?
Right, right.
Pushing way past your limits and then having to stop 100% to recuperate just means that you only got an hour's worth of decluttering done for a 5-day period. If you work for 30 minutes instead, and you are then not too worn out and you can come back and work again for 30 minutes the next day, then you get to the end of the week and you've already done way more time than you originally would have been able to. And so small and steady wins the race, like seriously hard. And adjusting your work commitment, your scheduled appointment to declutter, to your physical limitation of discomfort. Don't declutter past what you feel able to recover from overnight. Then you can keep going, bing, 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 and you'll get a whole lot more done than you ever would have by pushing super hard and overextending yourself on one day. And I know that that's a shift from, when you were 20, you would have worked all day until it was done, but you're not and you can't. So like you have to attempt to manage the task in increments that reflect your capacity. And you can still get it done. It just won't get done all in a 1 day super hard push. But if it gets done over a 2 week period in increments that you do it, then you're still done at the end, and it doesn't matter that you did it in 30-minute increments because it's still going to be done at the end.
Okay, I'm changing my mind. I'm gonna also read this response from Anonymous because I think it connects to what you've just said in response to Lynn in a lot of
Mm,
ways.
mm.
Anonymous says, I have made much progress, but have failed to implement any accountability to continue with the tedious stuff that's left. I said in December I would commit to 15-minute declutters each week, thinking that would spur me to do more. I did it 1 week and stopped. I still managed to clear books, trinkets, incoming paper a little each month, but not regularly enough.
So why did you stop, I wonder? I know it's not fun, but it's 15 minutes. So set a timer to encourage yourself to beat the clock. Aim for once a week instead of twice a week. I'm glad that you kept going on clearing specific categories of stuff like books and paper. You're already clearing out, so congrats on that. Since you're already doing some work on decluttering, I'd restart the weekly challenge and just aim for once per week for now, with the intention of doing more than you have been up to now. I mean, try to incrementally increase from what you're doing so far. The goal can be growth, not reaching full capacity. Just like you start with exercise, you build up muscles gradually, slowly over time. You don't start with an hour of exercise per day. You start with 15 minutes of exercise 4 days a week. So do the clutter equivalent of that and add 15 minutes once a week to what you're already doing. When that becomes easier or more routine, then you can go for 15 minutes twice a week. The idea is anything is more than what you're doing. So aim for an incremental growth, aim for an incremental increase in what you're doing now. And once you get that going and that feels normal and easy, then you can go up another notch again. You don't have to go from 0 to 60, right? You can gradually increase and get better at it slowly over time. Add more, be more routine about it, spend more time at it. And
You
then it
know,
will feel like you're making progress.
and to expand on the exercise metaphor,
Mm,
sometimes when you're doing routine exercise, you plateau for a while. And
mm.
you may not be where you want to be, but you find that, running 2 miles twice a week is just the most that you can manage without exhausting yourself. And that's okay. Then you just live with that for a while. If 15 minutes once a week is all you can do, that's okay.
That's okay
Um,
because you weren't doing it before.
right. I think also um, there's there's something to be said here about setting reasonable, realistic expectations for yourself. And
Mm,
the respondent said, I said I would commit to two 15-minute declutters each week, thinking that would spur me to do more. So maybe I did it 1 week and stopped. Maybe there's an unspoken statement here that I did the two 15 minutes and I wasn't that impressed with the result and I was disappointed in myself.
mm.
And so I think there may be maybe there was an unrealistic expectation that you put on yourself, and don't let it stop you. Make the commitment again, and make your metric for success. I did it. I
I did the
spent
15
I
minutes.
did the 15 minutes. The metric for your success is not now my kitchen.
I cleared the room.
Now I could host a cooking show in my kitchen, or
Yeah, 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 yeah.
does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. So, that's the version of we spent 3 hours in this room and look how much there is still left to do. And I often have to say, yeah, but there's 3 bags of trash and 1 bag of recycling and a whole bag of donations in the corner based on what we did. So don't focus on what's left. Focus on what you did. And if what you did was you spent 15 minutes decluttering, then you spent 15 minutes that hadn't been done that morning, and you are 15 minutes farther down the road. And that is valuable. That is worth it. That is, if you're not doing it and you do it, that's the win, right? And it doesn't matter how much left the house or how much clearer the space is, or how, like, you are spending the time and things are going. And there will be times where in that 15 minutes you get a whole bunch of stuff done because what you're focusing on is easy, and there'll be times when that 15 minutes means that you're focusing on something that is scary and difficult, and you spend the whole 15 minutes trying to decide about one piece of paper. That's okay, because both of those things have to be done.
Right.
And one day is, more visually impactful than another, but it's still getting stuff done, and it's worth the time to be spent.
Okay, I want to give at least a minute or two to the second survey question.
Mm.
We asked our audience, what's the most reliable method for getting unstuck when you find yourself trapped in a clutter conundrum? I want to encourage everyone watching or listening to go take a look at the survey responses and take the survey yourself if you haven't already. You can find the responses at cfhou.com/results299. I'm just going to go quickly through these, and Gayle, you can stop me if you want to comment on any of
Okay.
them. Anonymous says, "Give myself permission to start tiny."
100%. It's a great
Dawn
roadblock clearer.
Dawn says, "Just do something and be okay with whatever gets done. Tomorrow is another day."
Which is what we just said. Thank you,
Right?
Don.
Nina says, "Mr. Timer. I bought a timer at the grocery store. It's a manual one. I have a watch with a timer and a phone, but I like the big loud ring. And I like to play beat the clock. How fast can I get clothes picked up and put away, or load of laundry or dishes into the washer?"
I do that too, and I do it around commercials. I do that around, I'm gonna hang this stuff up, and then I can eat, and I'm hungry, and so getting the clothes hung up quickly, it means I get to my dinner faster. That kind of stuff. I think timers and artificial time measurement, we're instinctively, competitive on some level, and even if the timer is artificial, you can hear the ticking clock, and then it rings at you when the time is up, and it's kind of, it gamifies what you're doing, and inserting a timer is helpful to a lot of people.
Okay, I'm going to give the last one to Leslie, who says, "If I can remember when I got it, how long I've had it, and that it was a very long time ago, years, then I can sometimes talk myself into parting with it."
There you go. If you've had it for a long time, maybe you've lived with it long enough, and you can go live with somebody else.
Okay, we are out of time.
Mm.
I want to let our viewers and listeners know that we will be back next week, Tuesday, April 21st. This will be our 300th episode since we rebranded our meetup as the Clutter Fairy Weekly.
Can you
So
believe that?
we're gonna see what we can come up with to celebrate 300 episodes.
Since December 2019, when we started this.
And then on April 28th, professional organizer and productivity expert Karen Baker will be back with us. She was with us a couple of months ago, and we had so many questions for her about productivity that we barely scratched the surface. So we're looking
Yeah, and we
forward
had
to
so
having
many survey
her back
responses that we
again.
didn't even get to talk about. So, yeah, we have a lot of material from the surveys you answered about that back then.
Okay, Gayle, why don't you give us the weekly tittle?
This week's title is What If I Need It Someday? This week's assignment is to process one or more of the just in case items in your space. Identify an item that you've been keeping against an uncertain or unspecified future need. Reflect on the real likelihood that you will need or use the item within the next year or two. When was the last time you needed it or used it? Think about the replacement cost of rebuying the item if you should decide to declutter it right now. What is the threshold beyond which the cost of replacing this item will become uncomfortable for you? Now consider the cost of keeping the item, the space that it takes up, the effort required to clean or maintain it, the mental space required to keep track of it. Decide whether this item really deserves a place in your home. If so, assign it a permanent location to display or store. If not, dispose of the item by any appropriate method. And then come back and tell us about it. Which one did you face and challenge, and And put away or release. We want to hear.
If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to join us live. To get notifications about upcoming events, we invite you to join the meetup group by visiting cfhou.com/meetup. You can also follow us on Facebook by visiting cfhou.com/Facebook or join our mailing list by visiting cfhou.com/subscribe. We love to hear from you, so please keep your questions, comments, and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, Facebook, or anywhere that you find us. You can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
We would love for you to go on our socials and subscribe to our channels. I'm going to throw out Clutter Fairy Houston, cfhou.com/YouTube, which puts you on the YouTube channel where those 300, there's right now 298 episodes are. They're out there waiting for you to watch. And I hope you go and subscribe to the channel. We'd love for that boost of support. Thank you so much. We will be back every week this month, coming back to you again. So no more breaks for a little while, thank goodness. And we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.